Good morning. I'm Joseph Fink. I'm the president of Dominican University of California. There's some people standing in the back. There are a few spots to kind of hang out if you want to come forward. We had Madeleine Albright here a little while ago, and I told people they could come and sit in the aisles, and the fire marshal called me the next day. And so we have to be careful about that sort of thing, but there are still a few seats on either side, so give it a try. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you here today for VoteSmart 08. Before I do any more actual formal welcoming, I'd like to begin by asking Crystal Smith, a member of our music department, to come forward to sing the national anthem. Crystal?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Crystal. It's always a pleasure to hear the exceptional voices of our impressive music department students. It was absolutely terrific. Thank you very much. And welcome to all of you, friends, neighbors, faculty, staff, students. There are students here from local high school, San Rafael High School, from the Brandeis Hill Day School, parents, friends. There are 250 or 350 people watching this activity in the Guzman Lecture Hall now because of the overflowing crowd that's here today. I want to ask the students here, Dominican students here, because this is for you mostly. Identify this quote. This was the best of times, this was the worst of times. Who said that? Right, Charles Dickens in The Tale of Two Cities. Right, and this is the best of times and the worst of times. It's the best of times because we live in the most open, free democracy the world has ever known. But at the same time, we're involved in a condition in which our economy is in chaos. We're fighting two wars. We need to reform a health plan. We need to establish an energy policy. We're being challenged by the growing strength of nations like China and India and Russia. It is a difficult time. And it's all the more important that those of you in this audience who are young become involved. Both candidates from the Republican and Democratic side have said, we'll bring you change. Well, the change is going to come partially from them, but it's really going to come from you. It's going to come from those of you who are young, those of you who can be involved, those of you who can vote, those of you who can take time and effort and energy to become part of your community in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. It's extraordinarily important for you to become citizens of this country who become involved, who take the time and effort and energy to move us along to bigger, better, and greater goals. Because it is a time when change will come along, and change that's going to impact this nation. This is, since I can't predict the future, I will say this is one of the most important elections that you will ever see. It's probably probably close to the most important one that I've ever seen in my lifetime. So please become involved, do what you can, and take care of this nation as we go forward. Now, before I let the program go along any farther, I do have certain obligations as president of the institution. I need to thank our sponsors today, the Associated Students of Dominican University, the Wells Fargo Foundation, the Dominican Institute for Leadership Studies, our technology partner, Turner Technologies, our media partner, the Marin Magazine. I also want to thank Best Buy, Global Exchange Vacation Club, and Pete's Coffee and Tea for their generous prizes today. I also wish to welcome and thank Alicia Shepard and Tony West and Bill Grayson, who are here and will be formally introduced a little bit later on. It's now my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce you to a remarkable young man who is the individual leading our student government today, David Ramirez. David, please come forward.
Before I introduce one of our distinguished guests, Ms. Alicia Shepard, let me take a moment to thank our president of Dominican University, Dr. Joseph Fink. We are fortunate here at Dominican that term limits do not apply. Dr. Fink is celebrating his 20th year in office. In all, he has served as a college president for 35 years. This tremendous accomplishment makes Dr. Fink one of the country's longest-serving college presidents ever. Congratulations, Dr. Fink. Many of us at the university thought it was only fitting that we would help Dr. Fink celebrate his 20th year with an event focused on the presidency. We also thought this event would appeal to Dr. Fink, himself a scholar and professor of U.S. history. On behalf of the student body, I am delighted to welcome to Dominican Ms. Alicia Shepard. Ms. Shepard is a distinguished journalist, author, media writer, and expert on the work and lives of Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein of Watergate fame. She was a reporter from the San Jose Mercury News from 1982 to 1987 and has contributed to the Washingtonian, New York Times, Washington Post, and the Chicago Tribune. Currently, Ms. Shepard serves as the Ombudsman for the National Public Radio. In this role, Ms. Shepard serves as the public's representative and is responsible for bringing transparency to journalism decision-making processes. She teaches as a graduate professor, level course in media ethics at Georgetown University, and wrote a chapter on the media for the Center for Public Integrities, the buying of the president in 2008. Ms. Shepard has also kindly agreed to teach a class on media ethics today from this afternoon from 12:30 to 2 p.m. in Guzman Lecture Hall, and this is open for all students who are interested in attending. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Alicia Shepard.
Good morning. How many of you know what an ombudsman is? Anyway, I'm happy to be here. I wanted to just start with something that Thomas Jefferson said. You all know who he is, right? He said that whenever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. And whenever things get so far wrong as to attract their notice, they may be relied on to set them right. Thomas Jefferson believed that an enlightened citizenry is indispensable for the proper functioning of a republic, and I agree. He placed education as the foundation of democracy and a prerequisite to making an informed decision on who you will vote for. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to try to inform you to help you make your choice. Today we'll hear presentations from 6 Dominican student policy teams, each covering a critical issue: environment, ethics, foreign policy, economy, education, and healthcare. The teams have been asked to get to the heart of the issues and to share their position share the positions of the 2 primary candidates, Senators Obama and McCain. Following each presentation, you will be asked questions about policy issue. And our hope is that the presentations will prompt you to thoroughly consider the issue and your own position. You will respond using the handheld card that you received. Everybody have one? By the way, we would like them back. They will not open your garage door. So to ensure that you are all at ease using these audience response cards, I would like you to respond to the question on this screen. Where's the question? Okay. So the question, and you will have 10 seconds. It will be in the corner. You will have 10 seconds to answer this question. How well informed are you about the policy issues and McCain and Obama's positions on the environment, ethics, foreign policy, economy, education, and health care? 1 would be not at all informed, and 9 would be very well informed. Please vote. Okay. All right, looks like we have our work cut out for us today. And 26% of you, the majority, feel that you are not well informed, so I think you're in for a real treat. I would now like to introduce our representatives from the Republican and Democrat parties. Bill Grayson is the president of Falcon Point Capital. He has served on the President's Commission on White House Fellowships. He's the former Principal Deputy General Counsel of the Army. He is a former General Counsel for the San Francisco Republican Central Committee, a former delegate to the Republican National Convention, and he's just been nominated by President Bush to the IRS Oversight Board. Welcome, Bill. Bill fears that he will be an underdog, so I hope you'll give him a lot of respect today. Tony West is a partner at the law firm Morrison Forrester. He's the co-chair of the California Finance Committee for the Obama campaign. You know, in fairness, I'm going to really ask you to please not comment. Everybody needs to be heard today. If there are people who you want to feel that we're creating an environment that people are comfortable expressing their opinions. So I'm going to ask you to zip the lip. Okay, Mr. West has been active in 5 prior presidential campaigns and has served 3 times as a delegate to the Democratic National Convention, most recently 2008 in Denver. Unfortunately, due to a lack of time, we're unable to hear from representatives from the other parties. I would also like to honor and introduce our panel of judges. We have Ann Laser. She's the Voter Service Coordinator for the League of Women Voters of Marin County. And we have Allison Curtis, who is a All right, I'll allow that. Allison is a San Rafael High School senior. All right, we have Amanda Metcalf, who is trustee for Dominican University. And then we have John Kennedy, vice president for student life. And a man, woman, or person who needs no introduction, Chili. All right, the judges will have an equal vote on the policy issue questions, as will the audience members. But the judges' cumulative vote will account for 50% of the final vote on which team they feel does the best job. The judges have been asked to rate the teams based on content, coherence and organization, creativity, and their speaking skills. So I think the first team that we're going to invite up is healthcare. Just like to mix it up a little. All right, environment, come on up.
The earth. It's our home and it's the foundation for our entire existence. It's a pretty amazing place. Today we're going to explain to you why this is the most important issue in this election. Today we're going to ask you to be an actor and not a spectator. Why? Because without our planet, we have no society, no life. What will the earth look like when you are your parents' age? What will be your legacy? We have created some truly extraordinary things. Our cities and structures, current technology and art are all spectacular feats. All the materials used to make these things comes from the Earth's natural resources. In fact, even this very building, the rock, steel, water, wood, and oil used to make everything in this room, including the chairs you're sitting on. We can use these resources, and we should, but they do have a price, and I'm not referring to retail. The cost comes in the form of resource depletion, toxic emissions, and waste into our air and water. The planet's ecosystem, our ecosystem, has taken billions of years to produce these elements, and we're simply using them faster than the Earth can replenish them. We have dug the oil from the ground and transformed it into products, and these gases are now in the atmosphere. It's these gases, and specifically the CO2, that are the main contributors to climate change. We, the planet, are in a delicate balance between being able to support life and not. These are some of the effects of what is, what are, and what will continue to happen if we continue on our current path. We're at an important moment in history. The problems we're facing are 1, the carbon in the air is changing the weather patterns, and 2, our current president did not sign the Kyoto Protocol, which means there are no caps in place for limiting the amount of pollutants into our environment. The new economic foundation says we have just 100 months to make significant and measurable change, or the damage we have done to our atmosphere will be both irreversible and will continue to degenerate. Even if we do something after the 100 months, it will be too late to take action. Now is the time, and now is our chance. So I'll ask you again, what will the Earth look like when you are your parents' age? And what will be your legacy? Here is a graph that shows further consequences. Today we are already seeing increased extinction among amphibians, damage to the polar habitat. As time moves forward and temperatures rise, in your lifetime we could see huge losses of rainforests, bleaching of the coral reefs, and 15 to 40% of all species extinct. Climate change will also bring rising sea levels and an increase in number and severity of extreme weather events, which will have economic and health impacts worldwide. It is the broad scientific consensus that human activity is causing the changes to the climate. Our generation has been confronted with the problem, and the survival of our species is at risk. So what do we do?
With an issue this complex, how do we know what changes to make? Allow me to introduce the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The IPCC was started by the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations Environmental Program. They brought together hundreds of the world's greatest scientists to provide unbiased recommendations on climate change. They state that the world must reduce emissions by 60 to 80% of 1990 levels by 2050. Many scientists believe this is actually a conservative estimate. So what can you or I do to help make these reductions? Vote. Voting gives each of us a voice in the future policies of our country. Both Obama and McCain are promising change from the Bush administration's climate policies. But what specifically are they proposing? And what does the IPCC say about their policy choices? Let's take a look. Both candidates have embraced a cap-and-trade program to reduce carbon emissions. This puts a price on emissions and forces companies to buy permits to pollute. Over time, the cap is lowered to help us meet our reduction targets. If another company is able to reduce their emissions, they can sell their permits for a profit. Cap and trade also creates markets for carbon offset projects, such as renewable energy, planting trees, and methane digestion. Still, questions about cap and trade remain. For example, the IPCC warns of unstable energy prices if utility companies need to buy extra permits for peak energy demands. Obama and McCain have significant differences in their cap and trade proposals. Obama targets an 80% reduction in emissions and will auction off 100% of the pollution permits. McCain is aiming for 60% and will give away permits before eventually shifting to an auction. Both candidates are proposing new energy policies to fight climate change. Currently, 93% of our energy comes from non-renewable resources, including coal, oil, nuclear power, and natural gas. Only 7% comes from renewables. The IPCC recommends renewable energy resources such as solar, wind, and geothermal. These technologies reduce greenhouse gas emissions and other types of pollution like smog. Looking at each candidate's energy proposals, we see that Obama has set a renewable energy target of 25% by 2025. He plans to invest $150 billion in clean energy research and development, and he's cautious with nuclear power, preferring to research waste storage before building new plants. McCain has not proposed a renewable energy standard, but he is suggesting a 10% tax credit for clean energy R&D, and he promises to build 45 new nuclear plants by 2030. On fuel and transportation, both McCain and Obama want to increase our domestic supply of oil. Obama would enforce a use-it-or-lose-it policy, meaning oil companies need to drill in areas that they already own. McCain supports opening up new areas for drilling. Both candidates also want to pursue biofuels. Obama sets a target of 60 billion gallons of biofuels by 2030 and wants to create a low-carbon fuel standard. Finally, both candidates are offering tax credits for purchasing lower-emission vehicles. Obama is offering $7,000 and McCain up to $5,000.
And what do their voting records show? The League of Conservation Voters, or LCV, provides objective, factual information about the most important environmental legislation considered and the corresponding voting records of all members of Congress. The LCV gives Obama a lifetime score of 96 based on his 2 years and gives McCain a lifetime score of 26 out of 100 based on his 6 years. To recap, these are some of the key differences between the environmental policies of the two candidates. How do these policies compare to the recommendations by the IPCC, as conservative as they are? How might these differences influence your vote? Today we have learned that the earth is precious. Today we've learned that the earth is precious, that it makes everything possible, everything we have, everything in this room, everything we are. Without it, you and I, we cannot exist. This election may be the very most important of your lifetime. The environmental policies that these candidates are proposing will shape your future. The policies that our country adopts on climate change will have serious and far-reaching implications for the natural environment, business, nature, and our economy, and the quality of our lives. In 2020, you'll be about 30 years old. Some of you will have even been to grad school, medical school, have a PhD, or even kids. What will your future look like if the weather becomes even more extreme? If sea levels continue to rise? If your video doesn't play? If malaria and other tropical diseases spread north? It has taken the Earth billions of years to get to this state of balance and the ecosystems that support us. With all the fish, the moose, the people, the penguins, and the bears, and so on. In the next hour, you'll hear about several other important issues. Keep in mind as you listen that the environment, our Earth, is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Who will you choose to lead responsibly into your future? To find out more information about the topics raised today, or to discuss these issues with your classmates, find Green Igloo on Facebook. It's in your hands.
The video.
I wanted to say one thing before we start voting. I really would like you to think that to be really truly informed, you do need to listen to both sides. Just because you don't agree with another side does not mean that they don't have a good point. And I find that as a journalist that's something I have to do all the time. So I ask you to really listen to what what our two representatives are saying. But now we're going to vote. First question is, do you believe that human activity is accelerating climate change? Please vote. You'll have 10 seconds. And the answer is yes, 90% of you believe. All right, the next question is, how important is the environment and climate change to your decision on who you'll vote for in this November? Is it very important, somewhat important, or not important? Please vote. All right, 61% of you say that it is very important. All right, I'd like to thank the Team Environment for the good job that they did. And now I'm going to give you an opportunity to hear from Bill Grayson and Tony West. I'm going to invite Bill Grayson up first. He has 90 seconds to make his case.
How many of you saw Senator Obama's fabulous speech at the Al Smith dinner in New York a couple weeks ago? He was absolutely brilliant, and it's a funny roast and toast of a night. And he said, I know a lot of you out there have confusion and concerns about where I was born. Well, let me set the record straight. I was not born in a manger. And in fact, I was born on planet Krypton, the home of kryptonite, and I've been sent down to come save planet Earth. And it was a brilliant, funny side of Obama. And the interesting part is, I am now up against the rock star Tony West, who's one of the real stars of the Democratic campaign, the Obama campaign, and I am the underdog representing the maverick John McCain. And so I think I've got a tough job today, but I thank you for the indulgence. And it was interesting when I asked Joe Fink about the selection of the two of us. He was very clear in that, you know, Tony was the star. And I said, well, why'd you pick me? And he said, because you're the only Republican I know. Which actually isn't true, President Fink. All I want to say, I agreed to come here today in an audience that's clearly more hospitable to Tony, and that's fine. But my 6 years as a trustee of this great university got me to know the faculty and the students, and the beauty of that is that I know how open-minded you are. I know you want to learn the issues. I know you care passionately about them. And it's for that reason I agreed, because I believe in you and your ability to think about the issues and make wise decisions and vote smart. Thank you. Can I do, and let me take just 20 seconds here to do the environment. Which, and I'll tell you why I'm doing that, is because they did such a great job of presenting the issues, quite frankly. The only two things that are missing in that is that, one, Senator McCain was the first sponsor of a Senate bill to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the McCain-Lieberman Climate Stewardship Bill of 2003. So he is a well-known, staunch supporter, different from the administration, for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and for challenging what he calls the greatest challenge to our country and the world of global climate change. The other two things that I would make a recommendation to the team that are missing is that on those slides we do not have anything relating to the economic cost of any of these plans, which is critical, especially in this global recession. And number two, McCain has always said our reliance on imported oil is a massive national security issue, and as you evaluate the environment, those two issues, the economic costs and the national security, also have to be part of your thinking. Thank you.
Good morning, Dominican. It's good to be here with you this morning. First, let me thank all of you for being here this morning, which shows an incredible enthusiasm about what's going on in this country today. Let me thank President Fink and your student body president, Ramirez, and thank you, Alicia, for moderating, and Bill, it's good to be here with you. The environmental team did a great job of presenting Senator Obama's environmental policy stances. And I would only add this, that this world is in climate crisis. And we will not solve that climate crisis until we wean our dependence on foreign oil. I agree with Bill that talking about energy independence is not just an environmental issue. It is a national security issue, and it is an economic issue. But in order to do that, we need to not only do the things that you all talked about, but there are a couple of things that Senator Obama has presented which I think will get us there a little bit more quickly. First of all, he wants to put 1 million new hybrid cars on our roads. And the way he's going to do that is he's going to incentivize automakers in Detroit. Because right now, you may notice that most of the hybrid cars that are on the road don't come from American manufacturers. So it's important to build those cars right here in America. Why? Because it creates American jobs. That lifts the economy. And more hybrid cars on our roads means that we're going to reduce our carbon emissions. Second, Senator Obama has proposed getting 10% of our electricity from renewable energy sources within the next 4 years. That's a very aggressive goal, but it's a very important goal because, as you saw the stats from the IPCC, it is the only way that we are going to get a leg up on trying to save our planet. 25% by the year 2025. Senator Obama has also talked about investing $15 billion a year in something called a green energy sector. What that means is those companies that are out there being entrepreneurial about investing in renewable energy sources, you know, companies that are creating these solar panels that are going up everywhere, or companies that are investing in ways to wean us from foreign oil. Investing in those companies and having government assist in the investment of those companies means that we are creating American jobs, 5 million American jobs over the next 10 years to be created in this green energy economy sector. That, again, lifts the economy, weans us from foreign oil, and continues to, is my time, don't I get at least equal time? I just want equal. I don't want more. I just want equal. All right. And so, and then let me just hit the last thing. Senator Obama, I'm getting over a cold, so my voice sounds like it's changing every now and then. Senator Obama has challenged this nation because one thing is absolutely clear. We are not going to solve this global climate crisis without asking Americans to do something. To challenge you like John Kennedy challenged Americans to go to the moon a generation ago. And so he's challenged Americans to save more energy than we currently import from the Middle East and Venezuela within 10 years, so that we are saving more oil within 10 years than we currently expend. That's a huge, tall order, but we can get there and we can do it because people like you are engaged and people like you care, and you are the generation that's going to help solve this problem that has been generations in the making. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's give a big hand for Team Environment. And next up, we have the Ethics Team.
John F. Kennedy once said, "The ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all." The relevance of his words should be clear, particularly on the eve of this historic election. Because we realize that responsibility in a representative government ultimately lies with each individual citizen, we would like to turn the spotlight not only on the candidates, but on ourselves as voters and citizens. Our presentation asks each of us to consider our own ethics in relationship to how we vote and beyond. How do we embody the values and principles that guide our choice of candidate? And how do we live and act accordingly in our own lives? Thus, the primary focus of our presentation is not on us, the presenters, but on all of us as voters and citizens. To this end, we will now leave the stage and take our seats among you.
upon my lips, and all my thoughts are clear. I feel your smoky mist up to the stratosphere. Too low to find my way, too high to wonder why. I've touched this place before, somewhere in another time. Now I can hear the sun, the clouds drifting through the blinds. I have a million thoughts flowing through my mind. Too low to find my way, too high to wonder why. I've touched this place before, somewhere in another time. Now I can hear the sun, the clouds drifting through the blinds. I have a million thoughts flowing through my mind. Too low to find my way, too high to wonder why. I've touched this place before, somewhere in another time.
First question is going to be, when voting for a candidate, what criteria is most important to you? Is it A, a shared identity with the candidate, i.e. similar background, personality, experience, or B, the candidate's stance on a specific issue that is very important to you, such as the economy or the environment? Or C, the values and principles of the candidate, what he represents, religion, family values, etc. So please vote, A, B, or C. Oh, wow. So 71% of you say that the candidate's stance on a specific issue is what is very important to you. The next question. Knowing yourself, or knowing myself, I feel more motivated to take responsible action beyond the polling booth. True or false? Well, at least you're honest. All right, now we're going to hear from our two representatives, and since I let Bill Grayson go first last time, I'm going to invite Tony West up.
Thanks. That was a great presentation. This is my 6th presidential campaign, and people often ask me what's so different about this one than the prior 5. And clearly we have an extraordinarily talented candidate in Senator Obama, no question about it. But as Senator Obama himself points out, that is really not the core phenomenon that we're experiencing here. And it's interesting because when I see some of these negative campaign ads in other states, you don't see them much here in California. It's funny because people seem to think that this campaign is about Senator Obama or Senator McCain. It's not. It's about you and me. It's about us. It's about all of us, the grassroots, the mass roots, right? This idea that you can bring change from the bottom up instead of the top down, that's at the heart of this campaign. And that reminds us as voters that we have a very important role to play in our democracy. The essence of democracy is the dignity of the individual. And so that is what I think is at the motivating core. One of my favorite quotes from Lincoln is that if our democracy dies, it won't die from some foreign invasion. It will die by suicide, by people who forget or become complacent and apathetic and don't participate. And so I think one reason you're seeing such success in our campaign is because we're reminding people that you do have a role to play, and we want you to play that role in our democracy.
It's amazing. So far, Tony and I are agreeing on a lot of things, so maybe it'll get a little more exciting as we progress, but I like that. When I ran once for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, I lost the election as a Republican, probably not a huge surprise in a city that has 15% registered Republicans. But I remember finishing the race and bumping into a friend, and I asked her if she had voted. And she said, no, I was too busy to vote. And I said, well, if I wasn't too busy to run for the last 3 months, you shouldn't be too busy not to vote. And I think what this ethics team has put together is right on point in that. And that's demanding and asking for your involvement and your knowledge and putting thought into it and removing the biases of, well, if I'm a Democrat and he's a Republican, well, he has to be anti-environment. Or I only have a single issue, and that issue is abortion, and that's the only thing I care about. That's the wrong way to go about it. And I think for all of us, we continually grow and change in our views and our thoughts. And I have here today 2 of my 3 daughters, Catherine and Elizabeth. Why don't you guys stand up quickly? 7th and 6th graders. And they are in that perfect time, as we all are throughout their lives, but particularly for them to have these influences, to see it happen in an environment and venue like this is the absolute best. So again, I thank you for putting this together.
Bill, you even have some time left. Okay, well, Team Ethics, thank you. Stand up. Next up, another really important issue, foreign affairs. So I'd like to invite the foreign affairs team.
Before we begin, I would like to thank Ms. Shepard for her introduction and for the candidate representatives for being here with us this morning. Foreign policy is a set of prioritized goals, national interests, and plans of actions presidents set forth in order to effectively solve potential problems that arise from the complexity of international relations. Naturally, no clear-cut proposals can be made, as each issue needs to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. Voters can only look at the candidates' votes and views on related concerns to determine which one suits their personal convictions best. Consequently, we are not here today to tell you who to vote for. We are simply here to relay the facts to you and help you make an informed decision on November 4th. During the presentation, please keep one question in mind. Under which circumstances is the use of military force necessary? We have looked at humanitarian aid, human rights, weapons of mass destruction, security alliances, and counterterrorism to help answer this question. This map, which is current as of January 2007, displays major occupations of U.S. forces, with Africa and the Middle East being most crucial to our presentation. It is noteworthy to mention that 151 foreign countries contain some form of U.S. American men and women, servicemen and women.
Now, here is some background information concerning the powers the executive office has in regards to foreign policy. Presidents have two types of powers, constitutional and implied, with the former requiring the approval of Congress, while the latter is utilized at the discretion of the president without the approval of Congress. Implied powers have been used increasingly in modern history. These are some historical examples of presidents using their constitutional and implied powers in the use of military force. Senator McCain did not support U.S. intervention in Lebanon and Haiti, but supported NATO-led intervention into Bosnia and Kosovo. He also supports the wars in Iraq, where we currently have 132 troops stationed, and in the war in Afghanistan, where we have 22,000 troops deployed. Senator Obama opposed the Iraq War, arguing that it has been a distraction from the real terrorist threats in Afghanistan. The dominant theme in foreign policy for the last 8 years has been the Bush Doctrine, which is a 4-point plan President Bush created in response to 9/11, which was used to justify the invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan. This doctrine stresses the need and importance of preemptive attacks to deter possible terrorist threats and to deny rogue states access to nuclear weapons. The Bush Doctrine is essentially an extension of the Powell Doctrine, which was developed by Colin Powell prior to the Persian Gulf War in the early 1990s. It is comprised of questions the U.S. government must answer yes to in order for the country to go to war. These include having a clear exit strategy, the risks and costs must be fully analyzed, and the public must be behind it.
Both candidates have opinions on these doctrines. Senator Obama says, and I quote, "Well, I think that one of the things about the Obama doctrine is it's not going to be as doctrinaire as the Bush doctrine because the world is complicated." Senator McCain says, and I quote, "I believe that together these moves will give the Iraqis and Americans the best chance of success." With that said, it is logical to assume that both Senator McCain and Senator Obama will consider two important issues when drafting a foreign policy, as both doctrines boil down to 2 points. The first being the U.S.'s role in the world involving humanitarian aid and human rights efforts. The second being the U.S.'s national and security interests. Both candidates have distinct views on these 2 points. On the war on terror, Senator McCain believes that a stable Iraq, in addition to successful efforts in Afghanistan, is crucial to spreading democracy in the Middle East. McCain's campaign has emphasized much more a traditional form of diplomacy, which includes talks with preconditions and economic sanctions. He has also put more focus on building new alliances and coalitions with countries to bypass the inactivity of organizations like the United Nations. On the war on terror, Senator Obama believes that Iraq is a distraction from the fight against al-Qaeda and other terror networks. He is much more inclined to utilize economic resources and talks without preconditions to further diplomacy. Senator Obama also believes that new alliances should be used in conjunction with the United Nations and other organizations in peacekeeping missions and the war on terror. With this background, the U.S. has specific areas of interest that it looks at to address its foreign policy, the first being aid assistance, which historically speaking has been used by the United States to effectively build relationships and spread democracy. McCain has a less defined plan for humanitarian aid. He has emphasized the notion that aid should be granted to countries under extraordinary circumstances and whose situations affect the national security interests of the United States. His voting record suggests, though, that he is more likely to offer military rather than financial aid support in terms of aid. Obama, on the other hand, plans to double annual investment in foreign aid. Under this aid, programs would include the global fight against the HIV and AIDS epidemic and its devastation throughout many countries in the world, and agricultural and energy initiatives. He is less likely to use military force in dealing with humanitarian aid, although he has stated he would like to use an expanded NATO to provide stability forces in areas like Darfur. However, both candidates have felt pressure to either cut or modify all sorts of aid programs due to the state of the U.S. economy and the war in Iraq.
Foreign policy interests also include counterterrorism, the containment of weapons of mass destruction, or WMDs like nuclear weapons, and the role of security alliances. Both candidates support proactive solutions in order to prevent future terrorist attacks on America and its interests. Additionally, both senators want Iran to disband on its nuclear program, but have different approaches to pressuring the government. On the topic of WMDs, Obama is willing to speak without preconditions with Iran's leaders, offering economic and security incentives if the country dismantles its nuclear ambitions. McCain, on the other hand, emphasizes the use of diplomacy with preconditions in dealing with Iran, and is less likely to offer incentive rewards until words become actions. Coming back to counterterrorism, Obama has promoted the idea of Western countries becoming more in tune with the Islamic world through improved diplomatic relations. This will be done in an effort to end the sense of vilification many Muslims throughout the world are feeling. He also believed that this tactic can be used to accurately determine threats and terminate them before they fester. As a result, Obama has argued that the war in Iraq is a distraction from catching members of al-Qaeda who are hiding in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and subsequently has proposed a gradual withdrawal of American forces from Iraq into Afghanistan in order to combat al-Qaeda. McCain, meanwhile, has asserted that a stable Iraq, in addition to successful efforts in Afghanistan and Pakistan, will lead to the decline of Islamic fundamentalism. In order to achieve this, he has supported the troop surge in Iraq, a measure Senator Obama opposed, and has stated that the timetable for withdrawal should not be written until it's clear that the mission has been completed. As for the ongoing battle in the mountainous region between Afghanistan and Pakistan, McCain has promoted the use of qualified individuals who can blend into the culture in order to gather and assess information that can be used to determine when and if to strike. He has also supported a rogue state rollback policy in which he would arm, train, and equip opposing factions within or without such states with the ultimate goal of setting up a legitimate democratic government. It is very important to note that neither candidate has taken the military option off the table. In regard to the importance of maintaining security alliances, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, is a military alliance of European countries led by the United States, which was created during the Cold War as a check against Soviet Russia. Both candidates support an expansion of NATO into Eastern Europe, but differ on how they would use this expansion. Obama wants to expand NATO to increase troop presence, strength, and stability in Afghanistan in order to more effectively target al-Qaeda. And McCain wants to expand NATO mainly for the purpose of deterring what he perceives as Russian aggression into Eastern Europe.
While Senator McCain is more vocal about the use of military force than Senator Obama, both candidates will act decisively if the U.S.'s vital security interests are threatened. Due to this, foreign policy is very important to the presidency, yet it is only a portion of what to consider when voting on November 4th. We hope you found this presentation informative and helpful. Thank you for being with us this morning. God bless America and go Dominican.
Ready to vote? All right, which issue do you consider to be the most vital to the U.S. national interest? A, non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. B, counterterrorism. C, security alliances. D, humanitarian aid and intervention. Or E, promotion of human rights. Please vote. Okay, promotion of human rights. Looks like the winner there. This takes a little while to match it all up. Okay. Okay, the next vote is a little more complicated, so I'll read it. So basically we're asking, under which circumstances would you advocate deploying U.S. troops? And the first one is A, in response to a terrorist attack? Or B, NATO commitments, i.e. protecting potential members like Georgia? Or C, combating rogue states and their ambition to obtain weapons of mass destruction? Or D, humanitarian crises, such as making sure that aid given to the countries the U.S. gives aid to, that the aid gets to the people and not to the guerrillas? Or E, human rights, intervening in areas of the world where genocide and civil war is more commonplace? So give that some thought, and you have 10 seconds to vote. All right, all right, so you all advocate, 54% of you advocate sending troops in to help with human rights. All right, we're going to now invite Bill Grayson up to talk about the McCain campaign's position.
Thank you. Did you say "Go McCain" at the end of your remarks? So now there are two of us in here. Thank you. Great job to the Foreign Affairs team. How about another round of applause? I'm going to take a little time because I thought that was great. Let me just say a couple quick things. There is no man in America, bar none, more qualified to be the commander-in-chief than John McCain. I think that is unequivocally clear. He's an American hero, war hero. He knows the national security issues. He knows the global leaders. And more than anything, he knows the cost, because he's been there, of sending young men and women into combat. I believe that the world is a very dangerous place. And I applaud all of you who voted for the human rights as your top concern, and I give you great credit for that. I think that's fabulous, and I believe that too. I think Darfur and other places were tragedies that we could never sit by and watch. However, we must have an incredibly tested leader in this time. We will bring the troops home from Iraq in victory. Afghanistan and Pakistan, we have to watch. But let me assure you of this: the next president, whether it's Senator Obama or John McCain, will go to war, and he will go to war with Iran. President Ahmadinejad, with the backing of the Ayatollah, is a zealot, an Islamic fundamentalist, and is absolutely hell-bent on destroying, and as he says, removing Israel from the face of the planet. He has a mission that is a holy war. He will execute that, and they are very busy, as all of you know, developing nuclear weapons. They will use those nuclear weapons against Israel or any of its allies, and that is a war that we are going to fight. And with all due respect to Tony and to Senator Obama, you cannot sit down with Ahmadinejad without having conditions. That is, as New York Times and Wall Street Journal and others have said, dangerously naive. We need a leader who is tested and a true commander-in-chief, and that is, in this instance, John McCain.
Well, I guess this is where we start to disagree. This is the fun part, right? I do agree that we live in a dangerous world and we live in dangerous times, and the next president of the United States will be tested no matter who he is. But I do not believe that it is a foregone conclusion that this nation will go to war with any country in the next 4 or 8 years. Because in order to lead the global community, you must engage the global community, and that is what Senator Obama believes. You cannot be a leader in this 21st century world by lacking the right judgment when it comes to world affairs. And we now know that when it came to going to war in Iraq, a country that had nothing to do with 9/11, a country that posed no immediate security risk to the United States, Senator Obama was right and Senator McCain was wrong. We now know that the next president will be tested and will have the enormous job of responsibly withdrawing our troops from Iraq. The question is, how long will it take and who is most committed to doing that? Senator Obama has been consistent on this, a phased, responsible withdrawal. Most military experts say about 2 brigades a month from Iraq. Why? Because when you look at all of and you all did an excellent job of presenting this, when you look at all of the other challenges which face us, a war in Afghanistan, the ability to respond to humanitarian crises around the world, you cannot do that if you are spending billions of dollars on a war we should not be waging in Iraq. Just in the time that we've been together this morning, we have spent another $27 million in Iraq. That is money we don't need to waste. And the cost, of course, in human casualties is awfully high. And so I do believe that here you have a very clear difference on who the next president of the United States will be and where that president will take us, whether or not we will be a safer nation under a Senator Obama or whether we'll be a safer nation under John McCain. And I submit to you that there is, certainly there's little doubt in my mind, but I submit to you that we will be safer and we will be more secure and we will be a better world neighbor under a Senator Obama, a President Obama, because, frankly, the policies of the last 8 years just haven't worked. And it is time to change that.